We're holding on page 314.
314?
Yeah. 11 lines in the bottom where it says Ach Lahavin. It's the first word on the line. Ach Lahavin. So up until this point, we've been talking a lot about Torah mitzvahs, many different reasons why Torah mitzvahs is so important in terms of our relationship with Hashem, in terms of what we're accomplishing, as opposed to what Alter Rebbe talks about as dechilu or dechimu sichlium. You know, trying to connect to the Eibishter by understanding the Eibishter, by developing a relationship with the Eibishter, emotional relationship, why that doesn't work. So one of the reasons that we mentioned earlier, we said, and that's actually the first reason we spoke about, we said that when we do a mitzvah, so we are bringing in light into the world of Atzilus. And how is that? Because since we're being mevarer, we're elevating something, a physical object, and that physical object contains within its sparks, and those sparks are rooted in the world of Tohu, which is, remember we said that's Shem Sag, the name of Sag, which is higher than Tikkun, higher than Atzilus, higher than Atzilus comes from Shem Ma. So because in the physical objects with which we are doing mitzvahs, there are these high sparks. So therefore, when we do mitzvahs and we elevate these sparks, we're bringing light into the world of Atzilus. And now the Alter Rebbe is going to we're going to re-explore and reanalyze that idea. To understand, Eicha Esrik. How is it possible? This Esrik, you're doing a mitzvah, right? You're shaking lulav in Esrik. This Esrik, right? It contains a spark from the 288 sparks which were not yet elevated. The same thing is also if you're putting on film, the klaf. How is it possible that this should be yamshich oir, that this should draw down light? Bekalim de zunda atzilus, bring down light into the kalim of zun zachar in the cave of atzilus. Now there's the midas and malchus of atzilus. Shekvar nivru v'nisknu. In Atzilus, everything is oil matikon, everything is elevated, everything is holy. It's been elevated and fixed. Al yidei shema, liyis bechinas alakus. It's already godliness. Alter Rebbe is saying, so you have a esrig, you have a tefillin which is made of animal hide. So yeah, there's a spark there's a spark from the oil matayu. Oil matayu taka is higher than oil matikon. But this spark is not higher than this spark that's in this esrog or in this tefillin is not higher than the world of Atzilus. The world of Atzilus is a world of elikus, of godliness. This is a spark that fell all the way down here into this world. Its source is higher than the world of Atzilus, but it's not. So how is it that by me doing a mitzvah, I am bringing light into the world of Atzilus? So the Rebbe says, the mashal to be able to understand this. He has Riya V'Hanatia. This is actually a mashal that we've encountered at least twice already in the Geras HaKodesh of planting. Zriya is planting a tree, and Natia is planting a grain. Zriya is planting grain, Natia is planting a tree. And the question is, so you take an apple seed, let's say, you throw it into the ground, and a tree comes. Where's the tree from? If you pull out a microscope, you're going to find the tree in the apple seed. Where's the tree coming from? And it's not only that. The apple seed, you throw it into the ground, it decomposes. So it becomes nothing, it becomes dust. So where is this apple tree coming from? You know, certain things we take for granted because it happens, so we say it's just nature, right? But imagine if there's no such thing as things growing from the ground. And then someone came along one day and took a little apple seed and you examined it, threw it in the ground, and you watch and suddenly a huge tree grows, and that tree starts giving up fruit. That would be the biggest miracle that there is. Every time something grows, it's a tremendous miracle. How does it happen? It doesn't seem to make any sense. The same thing is when you take up a piece of a grain of wheat and you throw it into the ground, and you have a whole stalk that grows filled with grain. And it's not only that; there's a stalk and there's the husks. And where does it all come from? So in Chassidus is explained, it's not from the seed. There is no tree in the seed. The Eibishter, and on the fourth day of creation, the third day of creation, the Eibishter says, "Tatshe ha'aretz desha." The earth has the ability to And Eitz Pri, Eser Pri has the ability to grow things. And that's what's called the Koyach HaTzemech. The ground has the power to grow things. When you throw a seed into the ground, that is evoking, it's stimulating the Koyach HaTzemech in the ground. The tree doesn't come from the seed, it comes from the Koyach HaTzemech in the ground. But then the question becomes, how does this little seed have the power to be able to trigger and to be able to stimulate the Koyach HaTzemech in the ground? The answer is, because where does this seed come from? This seed also is a product of the Koyach HaTzemech. This apple seed, it also originates from the Koyach HaTzemech. So it's its mucker, it's its shadish. So we see that when something, and because it itself comes from the Koyach HaTzemech, it has the ability to awaken and to stimulate the Koyach HaTzemech. Everything has the ability to awaken and to arouse its source. So the point that the Rebbe is going to say over here is, the spark that's in the esrog, or the spark that's in the klaf, in and of itself, that can't bring light into the world of Atzilus. Excuse me, actually, the lights that already exist, the iris and the kalim, the lights and the vessels in the world of Atzilus are so much higher than the spark that's in the esrog, or the spark that's in the klaf. But what is the source of the spark? The source of the spark is the world of Tayu. And the world of Tayu is higher than the world of Atzilus. And therefore, this spark has the ability to stimulate and to awaken and to arouse the energies of the world of Tayu and bring it into the world of Atzilus. That's what the Rebbe is going to say. Let's do this inside. The seed, it awakens the Koyach HaTzemech, which is in the earth. What is the Koyach HaTzemech? Shehu Dvar Hashem Tanya. What is the Koyach HaTzemech? The Eibishter said that the earth has the ability to give forth grass, etc. Eitz Pri Chulu and fruit. And how does the seed do this? Ayidei Halah Asman L'Sharshe. Remember the word man, right? Ma'im Nukvin. That when it is reunited with its source, in other words, the seed, the source of the seed is the Koyach HaTzemech. So Kacha, the same thing, Ma'irim HaKlaf VeEsrig, Taka, the Klaf of the Tefillin and the Esrig, they awaken Adrum HaMailas. They awaken their source to the highest level. Shehu Shem Sag Shalifnei Ashrira. What is the source, Taka, of the spark which is in this Esrig or in this Klaf? Is the name of Sag, which is again from the world of Tayu, which is before the world of Tayu broke, before there was the Shviras HaKelim. Now the Rebbe is going to say here again something which we learned earlier. Remember, there's something called Ak. Ak stands for, and remembers? Adam Kadmon, yeah. Adam Kadmon is the very first level of godliness that emerges after the Tzimtzum Harishan. Adam Kadmon. And it is the original plan that encompasses everything. And if you remember, we said that the two names, Ma and Sag. So Sag was the energy in the world of Taihu, and Ma, and it's a higher energy, and Ma is the energy which is in the world of Atzilus. It's a lower energy, and they both emerge from Ak. But you remember we said that the energy of the world of Atzilus, or the energy of the Shem Ma, comes from Mitzchad Ak, comes from the forehead of Ak, and the energy of Shem Sag, which is in the world of Tayu, comes from the Eisen Choitim and Peh of Ak, comes from the ears. The ears, nose, mouth, and eyes also of Ak, and that's a much more deeper. It's a much more. It expresses a much higher light of Ak than that which comes through the forehead. Do this inside. Shehu Shem Sag, the source of this spark, which is in the klaf of tefillin, or which is in the esrog, is the name of Sag. Shalifnei Ashvira, Shehu Mohus Va'etz Atzmus Eiris Sheba Ak, which represents the essence of the lights of Ak. V'lo Ya'ara Ba'alma, not a ray. K'may Shema Shem Mitzchei. Shema, which is in Atzilus, is only a ray of Ak. And that's why it comes through the forehead. That's when you do a mitzvah. The same thing is belimud v'iyun hilchisein, and when you learn the halachas, let's say you learn the halachas of the esrog or the halachas of tefillin, So me'ered also beginnes Chabad shebeser sfiris the kelim the zun vadrum amaylas. You awaken the Chabad because you're learning. So learning is Chabad. So you're awakening the Chabad of the Esher Sfiris of the kelim of zun up to the vadrum amaylas gamkin to the highest level. Beginnes Chabad shebesag the pnimius ak. You're awakening the Chabad of Sag, which comes from the pnimius of ak, hayetze derech einayim, which comes not by the way of the forehead but through the eyes. Chulu. So therefore, the bottom line is when we learn Torah, when we do a mitzvah, or we learn the halachas of a certain mitzvah, so the spark which is within that physical item, so that stimulates and awakens its source, which is Shem Sag, which contains in it the essence of the lights of Ak, and therefore it is able to that adds light in the world of Atzilus.
The light is upstairs or downstairs?
Sorry?
The light is stays upstairs or comes it up there?
Eventually it comes down here. A little of it comes down, and Mashiach comes, all of it comes down. But we're bringing that light. It's kemunach bekufsa over there and waiting for it to be mizgal over here when Mashiach comes. No, so we gave here, up until this point, a lot of reasons. I think altogether was 6 reasons what we accomplished through doing mitzvahs, dafka through mitzvahs, and the different birurim that we do through doing mitzvahs. And every single one of these things that we spoke about, we said the same thing applies if you're learning the Torah about that mitzvah, because we know, as the Alter Rebbe said earlier, that Zeis Torah Sa'ila, that Kol Ha'esik B'Torah Sa'ila is Kehilu Hikrev Ela, that if you learn the Torah about something as if you did a mitzvah, from learning the halachas of esrog, it's as if I'm shaking an esrog. So just like when I shake an esrog, I'm mevara the birurim, I elevate the sparks. The same thing is also when I learn the halachas. I think someone mentioned this a little while ago, a few classes ago. That's all true when I'm learning the halachas of shaking the esrog, or if I'm learning the halachas of tefillin. But what if I'm learning hilchas ribis? Hilchas ribis, or hilchas basar b'chalaf. So what am I learning? I'm learning the halachas about what I'm not allowed to do, which is leisasa. So even if you're going to say that learning the halachas is if I did the mitzvah, but even if I did the mitzvah, I'm not elevating anything. When I do a mitzvah, when I shake a lulav and esrog, I'm elevating the sparks in there. When I put on tefillin, I'm elevating the sparks. But when I don't eat a cheeseburger, I'm not elevating any sparks. I'm not doing anything. When I don't borrow money with ribbis, or I don't lend money with interest, I'm not doing anything. And obviously, therefore, also when I'm learning the halachas, also I'm not elevating any sparks. So it would seem that all the halachas, that everything we're talking up until this point about the value of learning halachas is only the halachas of mitzvah.
But maybe when I learn the halacha for ribbit, even though I don't do it, maybe later on I do it. That's why I'm learning now.
You do what?
I'm learning the halachot of.
Yeah.
It's nothing doing. I don't do the mitzvah. I don't do nothing.
Right.
Because I don't do ribit.
Right.
But maybe I learn now this halachot. Maybe later in the future I'm gonna do ribit. That's why I learn it now, so I can get tzachar for it now.
You're going to do what later?
Not gonna take it.
Ribit.
Ribbis is not something you do. Ribbis is something that you don't do.
So I will not. So I'm doing it now.
You're going to refrain from doing it. You're gonna, when the temptation comes to do it, you're going to refrain from it. Therefore,
because you learn the halacha.
Therefore, it's a mitzvah.
That's exactly what I want to see.
Let's do this inside.
No?
I hear you. Chol hanal, everything we learned. Everything we learned up to this point to a mitzvah. When you're learning about mitzvah, avaloi banat belimud prati halachas isuri leisus halachera. Lachera would seem that this doesn't apply if you're learning about a leisus. And then the Alter Rebbe adds in, why are you making a face? Ubefrat, and especially b'delei shchichi klal. Especially when it's halacha, which is in ganzen, a ganzen, not shchiach. It's not at all.
Not relevant. It's not.
The shchiach means comment. Kemei, for example, prati hilchas pigul kai gavna. Let's say you're learning a Masechtas, which Masechta talks about pigul. Chulin talks about it. You're learning about the halachas of pigul, and so Alter Rebbe here is actually he's thinking along with you. In other words, at the end of the day, if it's a isser, if it's a prohibition which is common, so the argument can be made that yashav v'le'yavar avera is you get schar kilo asa mitzvah, that if you abstain from doing it. So therefore, if you're learning about it, you can argue also that you get the reward for doing that mitzvah. But what if you're learning about pigul? Here, there is no, you'll never in your life, I think it's fair to say, you will never in your life have the temptation to transgress the isser of pigul. Sorry?
If you learn about oil,
that's a mitzvah say. It's a mitzvah say. And that's it. By the way, that's a statement. The Rebbe says, it would seem that everything that we're saying up until this point would apply only to mitzvah say, not to mitzvah leiseh, and especially, he says, ubefrat, especially those mitzvah leiseh which are not common. So that advantage of learning Torah.
Just remind us what pigul is.
Pigul is when the kohen, when he's being makir of the carbon, he thinks a thought which passes it. He thinks a machshava, right?
This is manlich.
Right. So it would seem that the Rebbe says that the advantages we spoke about up until now about learning Torah apply only to mitzvah saseh, not mitzvah leiseh, and especially not to those mitzvah leiseh which aren't common. But you notice the word that the Rebbe says l'choira. He doesn't say it. He doesn't say it definitively. He says l'choira wouldn't apply. So I'll give you a little advance look at a teaser. If you turn to page 318. 318. It begins, and there the Alter Rebbe, there's a chapter which is a page and a half, and there the Alter Rebbe is going to reverse course, and there the Alter Rebbe is going to explain how even when you learn mitzvahs leiseh, even leishchiach, also you're accomplishing the stuff that we're talking about here. But that's for next chapter. Here the Alter Rebbe says, based on everything we said before, l'choira wouldn't apply, but again later we'll find out actually how the Alter Rebbe finds that even that also accomplishes that mission.
But this alliance where you when we learn
I saw that look in your eye. I saw the look in his eye
when I said what?
You didn't answer because the answer
when I said that about refraining from doing something that's awesome, that you get.
Yeah, the look in my eye that I'm going to get to in a moment.
Yeah. I saw the look in your eye.
After all these years, Sheldon, you're finally figuring me out.
It's about time.
Hey, it says right that it takes 40 years, right, to really get the teacher. That's you're a fast learner. Yeah, but we're talking here specifically about mitzvahs ma'asiyos. Mitzvahs ma'asiyos, yeah. And now the Alter Rebbe is going to tell us. Now, however, there's an advantage to learning Torah, which would apply to mitzvahs leiseh also, because there's a new thing about. The Alter Rebbe is going to now introduce us to a new idea about learning Torah. And this is an advantage to learning Torah, which is independent of mitzvahs. In other words, up until now, every time we're saying, and you learn Torah, it also accomplishes the same thing. Why? Because that when you learn Torah, it's as if you're doing a mitzvah. But now the Torah is going to say there's actually something about Torah which has independent value, even if it's not as if you're doing a mitzvah. There's something special about Torah.
Machshava kamasa, right? If you're thinking to do a mitzvah, you didn't do it. It's like you did it. So you're learning Torah. Right?
I'm listening.
Sof ma'aseh machshava tchila.
No, that's what we're saying. We were saying there's this concept called the kol ha'esek b'Torah se'el kilu yikrevel. That's what we're talking about. Yeah.
It's different wording, I guess.
Yeah. It's not machshava k'maisa. You have to learn the Torah. It's not machshava. But moreover, hashava b'kil. Here's something which is equal by all parts of Torah. There's no difference. Right now, the advantage of learning Torah we're going to talk about now is equal in all parts of Torah. Any time that there's Av V'Yira, even Av V'Yira for Hashem, even Av V'Yira which is based on Seichel. Shel HaMalachim, even if we're talking about the Av V'Yira, the highest, the Malachim, right? The Malachim, we know what do we say, right? Cool, right? Cool, these are highest level. They have love for Hashem and fear of Hashem. At the end of the day, and by the way, the same thing is obviously about our Avengir. In other words, angels, and also we're in the same boat. But at the end of the day, The angels are beginnes nevroim ma'ayin liyash. Angels are nevroim, they're creations. V'hein beginnes nefesh ruach dibiyah. They are the nefesh and ruach of the worlds of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiyah. So something that we learned about earlier on in Siman Chaf of Yigaris HaKodesh, for those of you who recall, that in every single world there's a nefesh and a ruach and a neshama.
It doesn't talk about the malachim?
Sorry?
He's talking about the malachim that they're
The malachim are sourced in the nefesh and ruach of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiyah. They are and they're part of the nefesh ruach. So we said every single world has a nefesh, ruach, and neshama. The neshama of every single world is godliness, is alakus. The nefesh and the ruach of the worlds of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiyah are nivraim, they're creations. The nefesh and the ruach, they're energy which are creations. What?
And what about Chayev Yechida?
He doesn't talk about that over. Obviously, if neshama is godliness, the Chayev Yechida certainly would be godliness, but here he's not talking about them in this level. So the malachim, because they're creations, so they are manifestations of the nefesh and ruach of the worlds of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiyah. Aval, however, prati halachas, when you're learning a halacha, and it doesn't make a difference whether it's halacha mitzvah say or mitzvah leisasa. This is not creation. This is actually a hamshacha, a drawing down of chachma, of Hashem's chachma, of the matzil. The matzil means of God Himself. Hamlubesh as begashmius, which is now coming down into the physical halacha. When you're learning hamachla, shnayim mechzin betalos or machla para b'chamer, whatever you learn, akaynes tzein ladir. You're learning physical halachas, right? About halachas that talk about physical things, but ultimately, what is this? This is chachma of Hashem. This is not nivra. This is not a creation.
Sorry? It's Asa Midas. The Meluchim and the Chetzoinis and the Torah mitzvahs, that's the Asa Midas himself.
Yeah. So that's what the nekuda where we're going with this is. It's going to take us a long time to get there. It's going to be the Alter Rebbe is going to say this with an arichas. Is that ultimately your Ava and Yira is a nivra, is a creation. And learning Torah, whenever you learn Torah, you're learning halacha. That's not a nivra. That's a lakus. That's godliness itself. And because that's what the Eibishter's wisdom. And by the way, that's true even if you're learning the halachas of Pigel. At the end of the day, but right now what you're learning is the chachma of Hashem. Okay, so I'll tell you first outside of what he's saying, and then we'll do it inside. You're going to say 1 second. Within this halacha, there's Hashem's chachma.
What?
Within this halacha that I'm learning, within this Torah that I'm learning, there's Hashem's chachma. What do you do? Hashem's chachma is in everything. Hashem b'chachma yosad aretz. Kula b'chachma asisa. Everything is chachma.
Yeah.
So my Ava V'yira also contains Hashem's chachma, because you're telling me my Ava V'yira is created, okay, but who? It's created by Hashem's chachma. Alter Rebbe says no. When we say that Hashem's chachma is melubash in a halacha and Torah, that's very different than when we say that there's also a chachma in Ava V'yira. The Hasam goes over there by Ava V'yira, halavushu ma'ilamu master legamri. The lavush completely conceals the chachma. All the chachma of Hashem's chachma, which is in creation, so that the creation conceals on the chachma. Just like the physical earth also has chachma in it, everything's made of chachma, but at the end of the day, the chachma which is in the earth is hidden. What is the chachma that's in the earth? The chitzeni is the kelim, the malchus, the atzilus, sheba asiyah. How does the chachma get into earth? Because the chitzeni is of the kelim, of malchus of atzilus. You realize that's the lowest of the lowest level of atzilus. But inside there is the chachma, sheba asiyah, which comes down into the world of asiyah. Shehi mesuteres legamri, but it is completely covered up and concealed beruach nefesh. The Asiyah, in the Nefesh and Ruach of Asiyah. Remember we said Nefesh and Ruach are creations, and the Neshama is not. So when that light, when Hashem's Chachma enters the Nefesh and Ruach of Asiyah, it becomes completely concealed. And that's not only in this world. V'chein beBriya, also in the world of Briya, Briya is the world of Malachim. He musateres legamri beruach nefesh. It's there also. Hashem's Chachma is completely hidden. Shehem b'chinas nivroim, because they are creations. Behester v'helam habeira manivra, and the definition of a creation is that the beira is hidden. This is something that we learned about in Siman Chaf. What does it mean that something is a creation? Is that the creator is hidden, and because the creator is hidden, that's why the nivra considers itself to be a mitzias. So what we have over here is like this. The truth is, Hashem's chachma is in everything. So when I feel Ava v'yira for Hashem, Hashem's chachma is in there. In this table, Hashem's chachma is in there. And when I'm learning a halacha in the Torah, Hashem's chachma is in there also. The question is it revealed or is it hidden? In Nivroim, in everything that's a creation, in other words, everything that comes from the ruach, nefesh and ruach of the worlds of Biyah, so the chachma of Hashem is hidden. In Torah, the chachma of Hashem is revealed.
Did you say that the nefesh is not a creation?
It is. Nefesh and ruach are creations, neshama isn't.
Oh, neshama is
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
I'm not sure I understand what that. Why is that?
Nefesh and ruach are lower than neshama. Creation means something that senses itself as an identity. Elokus, godliness, is something which is purely an expression of Hashem and is completely bottled to Hashem. So in the energy that enters the worlds of Biyah, the highest level of the energy, the neshama, remains godliness. But as the energy comes lower, the energy itself becomes creation. In other words, the energy itself stops perfectly reflecting Hashem, and the Hashem is hidden in it, which is why it becomes a nivra. By the way, a nivra can be very holy, but holiness doesn't equal godliness. Malachim are very holy also, but they have an identity. So the energy that comes from Hashem, it starts off as pure energy from Hashem. Pure energy means it doesn't have an identity. It's like oil that comes straight from the sun, and all it is oil. What happens if that oil, I don't know, is there a way to convert oil and that the energy of the sun suddenly doesn't look like energy from the sun anymore, but it's still energy. But it loses that quality of appearing like the energy of the sun. You got what I'm saying? So the ruach, nefesh and ruach is still energy that gives energy to the worlds, but it's already lost its apparent and revealed godliness. It's a holy entity, but not godly. Mashenk in halachas, that's when it comes to the chachma. Excuse me. That's when it comes to the chachma, which is within all creation. Mashenk in halachas, as opposed to when you're learning halacha. Hashem's chachma is begilui in the halachas. What do you mean Hashem's chachma is begilui? But I'm learning halacha. I'm learning snaimex and betalis. It's about physical stuff. So he says, when we say that the levush of action, in other words, the physical levush that Hashem's chachma wears, is what's called derech maiver. What is derech maiver? I mean, it just passes through it, but it doesn't change its substance. So the mashal is brought on Chassidus to explain this, and maybe we've said this in the past. Is that, so let's say I think about something. Let's say I think about Reuven. How special you are, how amazing you are. So what happens? What's the natural result of that happening? Is that I'm going to have a positive feeling towards you, warm feelings. Midas, right? What's going to happen next? I'm going to give you a gift because I like you so much. Maisa. Where did that Maisa come from? From my midas. Where did my midas come from? From my seichel. But at the end of the day, my idea, my seichel is my seichel. My feelings are not seichel. My feelings come from the seichel, but my feelings are midas. And the gift that I gave you also isn't seichel. It comes from the seichel. It's not seichel. So even though, so as the idea comes lower and lower, it becomes something different. It changes. It doesn't. The seichel doesn't change. The seichel still. My head is still seichel.
Identity change.
But as it comes down through the lower parts, each time, in my heart doesn't have a brain. So in my heart, it takes that and turns it into midas. My hands don't have midas. My hand takes it and turns it into something which is maisa. What about, however, if I have a brilliant idea and I decide that I want to write it down on a piece of paper? So you turn to me and say, Rabbi, it's a lot easier to do on a computer, right? Why would you? Okay, so actually, so in Chassidus, the muscle is talking from writing. But today, I'm actually busy writing a whole day. That's kind of my job. I'm sitting at a computer and I'm typing, right? So I have an idea in my head, but the idea from my head doesn't go straight onto the paper. It doesn't go straight into the file. It goes through my fingers. So therefore, by the time it goes out of my fingers, it shouldn't be seichel anymore. It should be action. Is that correct? You guys get what I'm saying? But no. Actually, you go look at my computer screen and you'll see that which is written there is seichel. It's my idea. How did my idea go through my hands? My hand doesn't have brains. My hand can act. How did my idea go through my hands? Following what I'm saying? And that's called derech maiver. And that's called derech maiver. Maiver means it passes through. The idea went through my hands, but they didn't get changed by my hands. They didn't become hand-like. They didn't become maisa. They remained ultimately ideas. When I have an idea and it becomes midas, and then I give a gift, so then actually at every single stage, it's becoming lower and lower. From seichel, it became midas, and then it became maisa. When I write something, even though it's going through my hand, it doesn't change its mahus. It doesn't change its substance, that the substance is still seichel.
So the hand is the shaliach of the seichel.
Like the transmission line.
It goes through it. So he's saying is, so the hand is the lavush through which the seichel goes, but it remains seichel. Shnai meichsen batalis. It's just derech maiver. It's Hashem's chachma. It's Hashem's chachma coming through it. It's not that Hashem's chachma comes down to the level of physicality. It passes through the level of physicality. Just like when I'm writing something, the seichel passes through my hand. Over here also, it passes through. And ultimately, when I'm learning the halacha of Shnai Meichs and Batalis, I'm accessing Hashem's seichel, Hashem's chachma. As opposed to, when I have Avavira, my Avavira, our Nevraim, our creation. And over here, when I'm learning halacha, I have Hashem's chachma. Let's do this inside. And I'll tell you an example. I'll give a different example from my risk. For example, Yom Tov. Let's say it comes along Yom Tov. So as I'm sure you know, I'm sure you sense it, that on Yom Tov, what happens is that chesed of Bria is revealed in our world. That's what it says in Kabbalah. Let's do this inside. Chesed of Atzilus, which is completely melubishin, covered, okay, covered by Chesed of Bria. In other words, Chesed of Atzilus enters Chesed of Bria, but gets covered up. And Mechaya Elam Haza Hagashmi, and gives life to our physical world. Ayidei Maiver Chesed Yitzir Vasiyah. But the Chesed of Bria, Maiver, it goes through the Chesed of Yitzir and Asiyah. Hanikra Gamkein Hislapshus, which is also some sort of putting on some sort of clothing. Because otherwise Chesed could not, the Chesed of Bria cannot have an impact over here in our physical world if it didn't go through the Chesed of Yitzir and Asiyah. So even though that ultimately the keli, just like I can't write without my hand in order to write something physical. For something to manifest and express itself in this world, it has to come through the chesed of the worlds of Bria, of Yitzir and Asiyah. But what we have on Yom Tov is the chesed of Bria comes in a way of Maiver. It just passes through chesed of Yitzir and chesed of Yitzir and chesed of Asiyah. So we're experiencing actually on Yom Tov is the chesed of the world of Bria. in which is hidden the chesed of the world of Atzilus. But the chesed of Atzilus is taka hidden. It's not maiver. Chesed of Atzilus is hidden because the chesed of Atzilus would be revealed here in this world. You know what would happen? The world would stop to exist because if Elokus was revealed in this world, chesed of Atzilus is Elokus. If Elokus is revealed in the world wouldn't be able to exist. But we have chesed of Bria, but it comes in a way of maiver through chesed of Yitzir and Asiyah.
That's only on Yom Tov?
Yeah.
And during that it's not Yom Tov?
Then we have chesed of Asiyah.
But it has to go through Bria and Yitzir.
Yeah, but then chesed of Atzilus hides itself in chesed of Bria, and Bria hides itself in Yitzir and Asiyah. In other words, remember we said earlier.
So what changed?
I'll explain to you. Just like we said, remember we said, my mind, right? When I think something, so then that creates midas, and then that creates maisa, right? So also everything comes on the world, and in each world it becomes that world. In the world of seichel, the world of midas, the world of maisa. Maiver means that you go straight from the mind. It's going through the hand, but it's still seichel. On Yom Tov, it's like maiver. The chesed of Bria, it comes onto the world through the hand, through the chesed of Asiyah, but it remains the chesed of Bria. On the other hand, when it's not Yom Tov, so then we have taka, it is just chesed, and not Yom Tov. So chesed of Bria, chesed of Atzilus is mislabish and chesed of Bria, and chesed of Bria is mislabish and chesed of Yitzir, not in the way of maiver. And chesed of Yitzir is mislabish and chesed of Asiyah, and that's what we're experiencing. So we're experiencing, if it's not Yom Tov, we're experiencing chesed of Asiyah. On Yom Tov, we're experiencing chesed of Bria as it passes through chesed of Yitzir and Asiyah.
Which is a higher level.
Yeah. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the Gashmius covers up everything, even the Chesed of Asiyah. When we look at something, we look at Esrog, we see only Esrog, we don't see the godliness. Nevertheless, Halacha Atzma ain't the Gashmius Mamish. The Halacha is not the Esrog, the Halacha is about the Esrog. The Halacha is not Gashmius. The Halacha is Shehi B'chinas Ratzon, HaNimshach Mechach Milah. What is the Halacha? The Halacha is Hashem's Ratzon, which is spiritual. Hashem's Ratzon, HaNimshach, which comes Mechachma Ilah, from Chachma Vatzilus, Lahakal Elahachma, the Ratzon is Hashem is either to be lenient or to be strict. Rak only Sheyeredu Meir B'B'chinas Gili B'Gashmius. But this Ratzon comes down and is revealed in this world through Gashmius. In other words, the halacha, Hashem's Chachma comes down through me learning about a physical object. But the halacha is not the physical object, the halacha is about the physical object. Shebai and that's like water comes down from a high place to low place. Because obviously in the Gan Eden they're not talking about Esregim, they're not talking about Klaf. Over there they're talking about the spiritual ancestors of whatever it is. But the Eibishter's Chachma comes down into this world, and ultimately the Chachma of Hashem enters the physical, meaning that now I'm learning about Shnayim, Mechs, and Betalis, and that, but what I'm really learning is the Chachma of Hashem. The actual physical object about which the halacha is talking about. That certainly completely conceals Hashem. Right? The actual para and the chamer that you're learning about. Yeah, you look at the para, you don't see godliness.
That's the
Ratzon. The Ratzon is the chachma, the Lukus. V'chein basar hapigul. Right, the meat which is pigul, or late pigul, or kosher, or it's not pigul, the kosher. No, these are all taka. The actual meat is master. But rak halacha ba'atzma, but the halacha itself. Imatam hanigla, with the revealed reason for the halacha, him bebechinas malchus de bria v'yitzira, the bechinas neshama. It comes from malchus of bria yitzira, but the neshama. And remember, as we said, the neshama of bria yitzira is a lakus. Shu lakus hamachaya umahava nefesh ruach debiyah. That is the lakus which gives life and creates the nefesh and the ruach of bria yitzira nasiyah. Because as we mentioned, the nefesh and the ruach are nivraim, and who are they created by? They're created by the neshama. So that's what creates the nefesh ruach and creates the avanir of the malachim and of the neshamas and their chabad ma'ayin liyash, which means in simple words he's saying the Torah that we're learning is a lakus. The Torah that we're learning is the neshama. Avanir of the malachim and the avanir that we have are nivraim. So it turns out that the Torah that we're learning is the source that creates our avanir. Because the Torah is a lakus, and the Avaviyira is Nivraim. And therefore, he meravet samayna. And that's why Torah is what quenches the thirst of the neshamas kodim sheyard l'olam haza kemama yerd mechulu, before it comes down to Elam haza. In other words, the neshamas and malachim in Gan Eden, what are they doing? They're learning Torah. Why? Because Torah is higher than them. Because Torah is alakus and they're nevraim. And even after the Torah comes down here into this world, it is so much higher than the Chabad of Asiya, afilu de bechinas neshama, even the neshama she alkus, which is alakus. Okay, I know it's early, but we'll stop here.